My name is Abigail Morgan, and I'm 32 years old. Last Christmas Eve, my mother called me at 6 in the evening, demanding I cancel my plans and drive 2 hours to cook dinner for 25 VIP guests. She had no idea that one of those guests was Victoria Diaz, CEO of Aurora Resorts International. And she definitely didn't know that Victoria was flying to Miami the next morning to offer me a $2 million contract. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been so invisible to your family that they couldn't see your success even when it was staring them in the face? Let me take you back to that December evening when my entire world shifted. I was in my Manhattan apartment, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, the one my family had never visited because they assumed I lived in a studio somewhere, barely scraping by. I was carefully reviewing a presentation on my laptop when my phone rang. Mom. My stomach tightened instinctively. I already knew this wouldn't be pleasant. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you enjoy stories about justice being served. I'd love to know where you're watching from right now. Drop a comment below. I genuinely read every single one. Now, let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything. I answered on the third ring. Hi, Mom. Abigail, cancel whatever you're doing tomorrow. No hello. No, how are you? Just commands, like always. Her voice had that tone that expected immediate compliance. Natalie's hosting her networking group for Christmas Eve dinner. Very important people, 25 guests. I glanced at my suitcase, already half-packed on my bed. Inside was my best suit, the presentation materials I'd spent 3 months perfecting, and a plane ticket to Fort Lauderdale. Departure time? 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Mom, I can't. I have plans. Plans? She actually laughed. Abigail, your sister is making connections that benefit this entire family. The least you can do is help. I need you here by noon tomorrow to start cooking. My fingers tightened around my phone. For 15 years, this had been my role. The invisible daughter. The one who cooked while Natalie networked. The one who served while my younger sister shined. 7 main courses, my mother continued, her voice gaining momentum. 10 sides. I'm texting you the menu now. Use the good china, the Waterford crystal. These aren't your usual crowd, Abigail. These are people who matter. People who matter. Unlike me, apparently. One of the guests is Victoria Diaz, she said, and I could hear the pride in her voice. CEO of Aurora Resorts. She could be incredibly valuable for Natalie's PR career. My heart stopped. Victoria Diaz. The same woman whose email was open on my laptop screen right now. The same CEO who'd written, Looking forward to finally meeting you in person, Abigail. Your reputation in this industry is extraordinary. Mom, I really can't. Don't be selfish. This family doesn't need excuses. It needs someone who knows how to be useful. Her voice turned sharp. You're not exactly busy with a career, are you? At least you can contribute this way. The words hit like they always did. Carefully aimed to remind me of my place. The problem was, my mother had no idea what my place actually was. I'll text you the details, she said. Don't embarrass us, Abigail. The line went dead. I sat there for a long moment, staring at my phone. Then I looked at my laptop screen where Victoria Diaz's email glowed, then at my plane ticket. Then at the folder on my desk labeled North Star Experiences, Aurora Resorts Partnership Proposal. For 5 years, I'd kept a secret. A secret so big, so successful, that it would shatter everything my family believed about me. And tomorrow, that secret was about to explode in the most spectacular way possible. But they had no idea what was coming next. Let me tell you something about being invisible. It's not that your family doesn't see you. It's that they've decided who you are, and nothing you do will change that narrative. My mother decided when I was 17 that I was the daughter who would serve. Natalie would shine, I would cook. And for 15 years, I let them believe it. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. I opened it to find a detailed menu that would take any normal person at least 2 days to prepare. Truffle-crusted beef tenderloin, pan-seared sea bass with champagne beurre blanc, roasted duck with cherry gastrique, lobster bisque, butternut squash ravioli. The list went on and on. At the bottom, don't forget the truffle oil. Use the silver with the family monogram. These people have sophisticated palates. These people. As if I didn't regularly cater events for Fortune 500 executives and celebrities. As if my company hadn't just been nominated for the Hospitality Innovator Award. As if I hadn't built a multi-million-dollar empire that my family knew absolutely nothing about. Another text, this time from Natalie. Mom says you're cooking tomorrow. Don't screw it up. Important people will be there. I looked at my reflection in the window. Abigail Morgan, 32 years old. CEO and founder of North Star Experiences. 50 employees across 3 locations. A client list that would make my mother's country club friends weep with envy. And a family that thought I was unemployed. I picked up my phone and opened my calendar. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., I had a pre-meeting dinner with Victoria Diaz and her executive team in Miami. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. on the 26th, I had a board presentation that would secure the biggest contract of my career. I couldn't be in 2 places at once. And for the first time in my entire life, I wasn't going to choose my family's emergency over my own success. I continued packing. Business attire. The presentation notes I'd spent 3 months perfecting. My lucky pen, a gift from my grandmother, Elena, the only person in my family who ever believed I could be more than a servant. Grandma Elena had died 3 years ago, leaving me $15,000 in her will. My mother had tried to redirect it to family expenses. I'd used every penny to expand North Star from 1 location to 3. On my nightstand was a letter Grandma Elena had written me before she died. I'd read it so many times the paper was soft as fabric. Abigail, it said in her elegant handwriting, build something they can't take from you. Build something so magnificent that one day they'll have no choice but to see you. Tomorrow they would finally see me. I texted my COO, Ryan Bennett, confirming Miami arrival tomorrow at 10 p.m. Everything on schedule? His response came immediately. All set. Victoria's assistant confirmed dinner at the resort. The presentation is flawless.
This is going to change everything, Abby. He was right. This contract would take North Star from regional success to national prominence. It would mean expanding to 5 new cities. It would mean hiring 50 more people. It would mean proving that I'd built something real, something valuable, something that had nothing to do with the Morgan family name. Because here's what my family never knew. I'd deliberately built my company without using their name. North Star Experiences. No Morgan anywhere on the letterhead. No family connections leveraged.
No networking through their country club contacts. Every single client I'd earned on merit. Every contract I'd won through excellence. Every employee I'd hired because I saw their potential, not because of who they knew. My phone rang again. My father this time. He rarely called, preferring to let my mother run the family like a military operation. "Abby, sweetheart." His voice was gentle, apologetic. It always was. "Your mother is very upset. Can't you just come home this once?" "Dad, I have a business trip. It's important." There was a long pause. Then, quietly, "What kind of business?" I almost told him. Almost. But I learned years ago that any success I mentioned would immediately be overshadowed by Natalie's latest achievement. The one time I'd excitedly mentioned landing a major client, my mother had interrupted within 30 seconds to talk about Natalie's PR campaign for an energy drink. "Just business, Dad. I really can't cancel. Your mother says you're being selfish. Dad, when's the last time anyone asked me what I do for a living?" Silence. "When's the last time anyone visited my apartment? Or asked me how I'm doing? Or cared about my life outside of what I can cook?" "Abby, that's not fair. I have to go, Dad. I hope dinner goes well tomorrow." I hung up before he could guilt me further. The truth was, I'd stopped expecting them to see me years ago. Around the time my childhood bedroom was converted into Natalie's overflow closet. Around the time introductions at family events became, "Natalie works in PR," and "Abby helps out around the house." Around the time I realized that to them, I would always be the daughter who wasn't quite enough. So I'd become enough for myself. And tomorrow that would finally be visible. I zipped my suitcase closed and looked around my apartment. 2 bedrooms, marble countertops, original hardwood floors, art on the walls. My home. The one I'd earned. The one they'd never seen because they never asked to see it. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from my mother. "Abigail, I'm serious. If you don't show up tomorrow, there will be consequences." I looked at that text for a long moment. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. Some decisions change your life. This one would change everything. I woke up Christmas Eve morning to 47 notifications. Missed calls from my mother, texts from Natalie, even voicemails from my father. I deleted them all without listening and made myself coffee. If you've ever been the family scapegoat, you know what it's like to carry invisible weight. Every holiday, every gathering, every celebration that should have been joyful became another reminder of your place in the hierarchy. Let me take you back through the years so you understand exactly why I made the choice I did. It started when I was 17. Natalie was 14, and my mother was hosting her first major charity gala at our house. 200 people. A live band. Catered food from the best restaurant in Connecticut. I remember that evening so vividly. I'd spent hours getting ready, wearing the one nice dress I owned, hoping this would be the night I'd finally be included. "Abigail," my mother had said, pulling me aside before guests arrived. "I need you in the kitchen helping the caterers. Natalie will greet guests with me." "But, Mom, I wanted to..." "Wanted to what? Stand around looking awkward?" "Sweetheart, you're better with your hands than with people. Leave the socializing to your sister." I'd spent that entire evening in the kitchen while Natalie, in her custom $300 dress, charmed donors and collected business cards. Every time I emerged with a tray of appetizers, I was invisible, just another server. One of my mother's friends actually handed me her empty glass that night, assuming I was hired help. "Dear, could you get me another?" That became the pattern. Every Thanksgiving after that, I cooked while Natalie entertained. Every Christmas, I prepared elaborate meals while she opened presents. Every family party, I worked while she networked. By the time I was 20, the narrative was set in stone. Natalie was the successful one. I was still figuring things out. What they didn't know was that I'd started working at a high-end catering company when I was 19, saving every penny. I learned from the best chefs in New York. I watched how elite events were managed. I studied hospitality like it was my religion. Within a year at Luminous Events, I was promoted to line cook. By 23, I was running entire events, managing teams of 15 people. The executive chef, Catherine Chen, took me under her wing. "You have something special, Abby," she told me. "You see the whole picture, not just the food, but the experience." When I was 27, Grandma Elena died. She was the only person in my family who'd ever believed I could be extraordinary. The last time I visited her in the hospital, she'd held my hand with surprising strength. "Abigail, I'm leaving you some money. Don't tell your mother. Build something they can't take from you. Build something so magnificent that one day they'll have no choice but to see you." She left me $15,000. I used every penny to open North Star Experiences. 1 location, 3 employees. I'd chosen the name deliberately, with no connection to my family. No Morgan anywhere on the letterhead. I didn't tell my family because I'd learned that anything I built, they would diminish. So I built in silence. The business grew fast. Within a year, I had 10 employees. Within 2 years, 20. By year 3, I opened a second location. My client list included tech CEOs, hedge fund managers, and celebrities. But at family gatherings, I was still just Abby who helps out in the kitchen. I'll never forget last Thanksgiving. I'd spent 14 hours preparing a meal for 40 people. Turkey with herb butter, homemade cranberry sauce, sourdough stuffing, sweet potato casserole. Everything perfect, hoping maybe this time they'd finally see me. The dining room looked like a magazine spread. Candles, fresh flowers, handwritten name cards in calligraphy. When guests arrived, Natalie was introduced as our daughter who works in public relations for a prestigious firm. When someone asked about me, my mother laughed. "Oh, Abby doesn't have Natalie's social skills, but she's wonderful in the kitchen." Later, one of my father's golf buddies cornered me. "So, Abby, what do you do for work?" Before I could answer, my mother materialized at my elbow. "She's between opportunities right now, but she makes herself useful." Between opportunities. I'd closed a $500,000 contract that very morning. But to my family, I was perpetually unemployed, perpetually failing, perpetually less than. The breaking point should have been last month. I'd come home for a weekend visit, something I did less and less frequently. I'd climbed the stairs to my old bedroom, planning to drop off my overnight bag, and found the door open. The room was unrecognizable. Where my bed had been, there were now racks of designer clothes. Where my desk had stood, where I'd done my homework and dreamed about my future, there was now a full-length mirror and a vanity. My walls, once covered with posters and my academic awards, were now painted a soft pink and decorated with fashion photographs. My childhood bedroom had been completely transformed into Natalie's closet expansion. I'd stood in the doorway feeling like I'd been punched. Every physical trace of my existence in that house erased. I walked through the room in a daze, looking for something, anything that acknowledged I'd once lived here. Nothing. I found my mother in the kitchen, arranging flowers. "Mom, what happened to my room?" She didn't even look up from her vase. "Natalie needed the space. She's building her image for work. You know how important appearance is in PR." "But all my things, boxed up in the basement. You're welcome to go through them if you want." She adjusted a lily, tilting her head to examine the arrangement. "Honestly, Abigail, you don't live here anymore. Natalie does. It made sense to give her the extra space. That was my room for 18 years. And now it's more useful as a closet." She finally looked at me, her expression genuinely confused by my distress. "I don't understand why you're upset. It's not like you were using it." I'd gone down to the basement and found my boxes shoved in a corner behind the Christmas decorations. 17 boxes marked Abby's room in my mother's neat handwriting. Inside, my high school trophies for academic achievement, my debate team medals, my acceptance letter to Cornell that I'd never been able to attend because it wasn't practical, my childhood books, my photographs. One box contained my journals from high school, filled with dreams and plans and hopes. I'd opened one at random and found an entry from when I was 16. "Today, Mom told me I should focus on being supportive rather than ambitious. She said some people are meant to lead, and some are meant to help. And there's no shame in being a helper. But I want to lead something someday. I want to matter." I'd closed the journal and sat there in the dusty basement, surrounded by the physical evidence of my erased existence. And something inside me had shifted. Not broken, hardened. That was the moment I stopped hoping they'd ever see me. That was the moment I accepted that to them I would always be less than, always be the supporting character in Natalie's story, always be the invisible daughter whose only value was in service. But I'd also realized something else in that basement. I didn't need them to see me anymore, because I could see myself. And what I saw was someone who'd built something extraordinary despite them. Not because of them. But I'd kept building. That's what they never understood. While they weren't looking, while they were focused on Natalie's mediocre PR career and my mother's charity boards, I was creating something extraordinary. 3 months ago, I'd catered a corporate retreat for 500 people. The client? Aurora Resorts International. Victoria Diaz herself had sent a personal thank you note. The attention to detail was unmatched. I'd like to discuss a long-term partnership. 2 months ago, I'd been nominated for the Hospitality Innovator Award. The industry publication had called North Star a quiet revolution in luxury event planning. 1 month ago, Forbes had contacted me about a feature article. They wanted to profile young entrepreneurs who'd built successful companies without family money or connections. The working title? From Invisible to Invaluable: How Abigail Morgan Built an Empire in Silence. I'd agreed to the feature on one condition. It wouldn't run until December 27th, after the Aurora contract was signed, after everything was finalized. Now, sitting in my apartment on Christmas Eve morning, I looked at my laptop screen. An email from Victoria's executive assistant had arrived overnight. Ms. Morgan, confirming your attendance at tomorrow evening's dinner meeting, 7 p.m. at the Aurora Resort Palm Terrace. Ms. Diaz has specifically requested the pre-board presentation include only you, as she values working directly with company founders. Looking forward to finalizing what we believe will be an extraordinary partnership. I typed back, confirmed. See you tomorrow evening. Another email, this one from the Forbes reporter. Abigail, final approval needed on your cover story. We're incredibly excited about this piece. Your story of building a company without any family support is resonating strongly in early previews. Article goes live December 27th at midnight. You're going to be on every newsstand in the country. I approved the article without reading it again. I'd already reviewed it 3 times. Every word was true. Every fact was verified, and every sentence would shatter my family's illusions about who I was. My phone, still off from last night, sat on my nightstand like a ticking bomb. I knew what would happen when I turned it on. The guilt trips, the manipulation, the accusations of selfishness. I turned it on anyway. The messages flooded in immediately. 53 texts, 32 missed calls, 17 voicemails. My mother's texts escalated from demanding to desperate to furious. Abigail, answer your phone. This is ridiculous. You're being childish. I'm calling every restaurant in Connecticut. Do you know how humiliating this is? Fine, don't come. But don't expect to be welcome here anymore. Natalie's messages were more aggressive. What is wrong with you? Mom's having a meltdown because of you. You're ruining my networking opportunity. Victoria Diaz is coming, and you're going to make us look like failures. That last one almost made me laugh. Victoria Diaz was indeed coming to their dinner, and in less than 24 hours, she'd be shaking my hand as her newest business partner. My father's voicemail was the only one I listened to. Abby, sweetheart, I don't know what's going on with you, but your mother is very upset. Please call back. We're family. Family should come first. Family should come first. I'd heard that phrase my entire life. But it only ever seemed to apply when they needed something from me. When I'd needed support, when I'd needed encouragement, when I'd needed someone to see me, family had been conveniently busy. I made myself breakfast, got dressed in comfortable clothes, and pulled up my presentation one final time. 2 hours of work, refining details, perfecting the pitch. This contract would change everything. At noon, my phone rang. My mother again. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Where are you?" she demanded. "You should be here by now. I have 25 people arriving in 7 hours and no food prepared." "Mom, I told you I can't come. I have a business trip." "Stop lying, Abigail. What business? Your imaginary career?" "It's not imaginary. I have a meeting tomorrow that I cannot miss." "A meeting on the day after Christmas? Who has business meetings on December 26th? I do." "And the CEO I'm meeting with." "CEO?" She laughed. "Abigail, enough with the delusions. Your sister is the one with the real career." "Because you've never once asked what else I might be good at." "Because she had potential. She had ambition. You were always so mediocre, Abigail. We were trying to help you find something you could be good at." Mediocre. There it was. What they'd always believed. "I hope you enjoy dinner, Mom. I have a flight to catch." "Don't you dare hang up on me." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from liberation, from finally choosing my own worth over their narrative. There was no going back now. I sat there for a moment, feeling something shift inside me. For 15 years, that threat had worked. The fear of being cut off, of being rejected, of losing whatever scraps of family connection I had. But I wasn't afraid anymore, because I'd already built a family. 50 employees who respected me, clients who valued me, a business partner who was about to invest $2 million in my vision. I didn't need their approval anymore, and that was the most liberating feeling in the world. My Uber arrived at 6 p.m. to take me to JFK Airport. As I loaded my bags, my phone exploded with increasingly frantic messages, but this time, they weren't just from my family. One text made my blood run cold. It was from Ryan, my COO. "Abby, I just saw on LinkedIn that Victoria Diaz checked in at an event in Greenwich, Connecticut. Isn't that where your family lives?" My heart stopped. I quickly pulled up LinkedIn. There it was, posted 1 hour ago. Victoria Diaz at a private event in Greenwich. She was at my family's house. Right now. The woman I'd be meeting tomorrow was currently attending the dinner party I'd refused to cook for. "Abby, you okay?" my Uber driver asked as I stood frozen on the sidewalk. "Yeah," I managed. Just processing something. I got in the car, my mind racing. Victoria Diaz, CEO of Aurora Resorts, the woman who'd been courting my company for months, was at this very moment walking into my family's home expecting an elegant Christmas Eve dinner. The dinner that wasn't going to exist because I wasn't there to cook it. My phone rang. "Natalie." "Abby, I swear to God, if you don't get here in the next hour..." "I'm on my way to the airport, Natalie. Victoria Diaz just arrived. Do you understand what that means? This is the biggest opportunity of my career, and you're sabotaging it." "Then hire a caterer." "On Christmas Eve, with 2 hours' notice? Are you insane?" I could hear the panic in her voice. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix their crisis. "There are emergency catering services. Google them." "With what money, Abby? Do you know how expensive that is on a holiday?" I almost laughed. My company's emergency service rate was $10,000 for same-day events. I knew exactly how expensive it was. "That's not my problem, Natalie." "You're such a selfish bitch." She hung up. The Uber driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Family drama? You have no idea." As we drove toward the airport, my phone continued its assault. Text after text, call after call. I watched them come in without answering, feeling something like grief mixed with relief. This was it, the moment I'd been avoiding for years. The moment where I chose myself over their needs, where I let them fail instead of saving them, where I finally put my own future first. At 7 p.m., while I was going through airport security, my mother called one final time. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Abigail Morgan, you listen to me." Her voice was shaking with rage. "If you get on that plane, you are no longer my daughter. Do you understand? No longer part of this family." "Mom, we raised you. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us? By humiliating us in front of the most important people we've ever hosted? You raised me to be a servant. How dare you? We gave you a home, an education, opportunities. You gave Natalie opportunities. You gave me orders. Because she had potential. She had ambition. You were always so—" She paused, searching for words. "So mediocre. We were trying to help you find something you could be good at." Mediocre. There it was, what they'd always believed. "I hope you enjoy dinner, Mom. I have a flight to catch." "Don't you dare hang up on me." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From freedom. From the pure, terrifying rush of finally standing up for myself. I boarded the plane and found my seat. Business class. Purchased with money I'd earned. As the plane taxied to the runway, I turned off my phone completely. Somewhere in Connecticut, chaos was unfolding. Somewhere in that elegant house with the Waterford crystal and the family monogram silver, my mother was realizing that her unemployable daughter wasn't coming to save her. And somewhere in that same house, Victoria Diaz was about to witness firsthand what kind of family I'd been born into. The plane lifted off at exactly 8:07 p.m. Below me, Connecticut disappeared into a blur of lights. I pressed my forehead against the window and exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. My phone, now off, held 43 new messages I'd never read. My email, which I checked on the plane's Wi-Fi, had a new message from my father. "Abby, your mother just had to order pizza for the dinner party. Victoria Diaz left after 20 minutes. Please call when you land. This is bad." Pizza. They'd served pizza to a Fortune 500 CEO on Waterford Crystal. I closed my email and pulled up my presentation notes instead. Tomorrow morning I'd face that same CEO, but this time I wouldn't be the invisible daughter in the kitchen. I'd be Abigail Morgan, CEO of North Star Experiences. The woman at the table, not the one serving it. The flight attendant offered me champagne. I accepted, raising my glass to my reflection in the window. To the life I'd built in secret. To the moment everything would change. Below me, somewhere in the darkness, my old life was crumbling. And I felt nothing but relief. When the plane landed in Fort Lauderdale at 11 p.m., I turned on my phone briefly to text Ryan. "Landed. See you at breakfast to review final details." His response was immediate. "Abby, you need to see this." He'd forwarded me a LinkedIn post from someone at my parents' party. It was a photo of the dining room, pizza boxes visible on the elegant table, with a caption, "When the promised home-cooked gourmet meal turns into a Papa John's delivery." The hazards of high society entertaining. 73 comments already, most of them laughing. Some from people I recognized from my parents' social circle. I screenshot the post and saved it. Then I turned off my phone again and took a taxi to the Aurora Resort. The suite they'd reserved for me was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlantic. A bottle of champagne on ice with a handwritten note. "Welcome, Miss Morgan. Looking forward to our partnership. Victoria Diaz." I sat on the bed, champagne in hand, and let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. The years of being invisible. The countless times I'd swallowed my hurt to keep the peace. The way they'd looked through me instead of at me. And tomorrow, all of that would end. I pulled out my laptop and reviewed the Forbes article one final time. There was my photo, professional and confident. There was the headline, From Invisible to Invaluable: How Abigail Morgan Built a Catering Empire Without Family Support. The article detailed everything. How I'd started with $5,000 saved from waiting tables. How I'd built North Star without investors, without family connections, without any safety net. How I'd deliberately chosen not to trade on the Morgan name. The reporter had asked why I'd kept it secret from my family. My answer was printed in the article. I learned early that success without their permission felt threatening to them. So I stopped asking for permission. I built something so substantial that one day they'd have no choice but to see it. Tomorrow, they would see it. The article would go live December 27th at midnight. By morning, my face would be on Forbes covers across the country. But first, I had a contract to sign. I finished my champagne and went to sleep. My last thought before drifting off was wondering what my mother's face looked like right now, wondering if she was awake, angry, humiliated, wondering if any part of her was curious about where I actually was. Probably not. Even now, she likely assumed I was in my imaginary studio apartment, being selfish. By tomorrow evening, the truth would be impossible to ignore. I woke up Christmas morning in paradise. Sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, ocean waves visible in the distance, and an email from Victoria Diaz that made my heart race. "Good morning, Abigail. Looking forward to our dinner this evening at 7 p.m. I apologize in advance if I seem tired. I attended the strangest dinner party last night in Connecticut that I'm still trying to process. See you soon, Victoria." The strangest dinner party. I could only imagine. I spent the day preparing, reviewing my presentation with Ryan over breakfast, walking through every detail of the contract with our legal team. By 6 p.m., I was dressed in my best suit, notes memorized, ready for the meeting that would change everything. The Aurora Resort's Palm Terrace was elegant. Soft lighting, ocean views, tables set with crisp white linens. Victoria Diaz was already there when I arrived, and she stood to greet me warmly. "Abigail Morgan, finally we meet in person." She shook my hand firmly. "I've been looking forward to this for months. As have I, Ms. Diaz. Thank you for this opportunity. Please call me Victoria." She gestured to a chair. "Sit. Let's talk before the team arrives." As I sat down, I noticed she looked tired. More than tired, actually. Stressed. "I have to apologize for being a bit off tonight," she said, shaking her head with a strange smile. "I just flew in from the most bizarre evening in Greenwich, Connecticut." My heart rate stayed perfectly steady. I'd prepared for this moment. "Oh, what happened?" Victoria leaned back, clearly needing to vent. "I was invited to what was supposed to be an elegant Christmas Eve dinner. The hostess, Margaret Sullivan, actually, same last name as you, funny coincidence, had promised this elaborate home-cooked meal prepared by her daughter." I nodded, my face neutral. "Interesting. Abigail, it was a disaster. An absolute disaster." Victoria's professionalism cracked slightly. We arrived to complete chaos. No food prepared. Empty kitchen. The hostess was frantically calling restaurants, all of which were closed. We ended up eating Papa John's pizza on china plates, worth more than most people's monthly rent. That sounds incredibly awkward. It gets worse. Victoria pulled out her phone. The hostess spent the entire evening bad-mouthing her older daughter, calling her unreliable, mentally unstable, a disappointment to the family. Apparently, this daughter was supposed to cook everything, but just disappeared. She showed me a photo someone had posted on LinkedIn. There was my mother, face flushed with embarrassment, pizza boxes visible on her precious mahogany table. Natalie stood in the background looking mortified. The younger daughter, Sarah or Natalie, I can't remember, kept trying to pitch me PR services while serving Papa John's. Victoria laughed without humor. She actually said, "I know this isn't ideal, but my sister has always been unreliable." I took a sip of water, keeping my expression sympathetic. "Did you stay long?" 20 minutes after the pizza arrived, I couldn't take it anymore. Victoria shook her head. The hostess was so busy making excuses and blaming the absent daughter that she forgot to actually host. She kept saying her daughter was too stupid to hold a real job, so she usually just cooks for them. My hands remained steady on my napkin. "That's terrible. The worst part?" Victoria leaned forward. "I actually felt bad for this absent daughter. Imagine being treated like that by your own family. Imagine being so undervalued that your only worth is as free labor." "I can't imagine," I said quietly. Before Victoria could respond, her executive team arrived. 5 people, all impeccably dressed, all carrying portfolios with the Aurora Resorts logo. We moved to a larger table and dinner became a working session. The presentation went flawlessly. I walked them through North Star's portfolio, our expansion capabilities, our vision for the partnership. Victoria's team asked sharp questions. I had sharper answers. 2 hours later, Victoria smiled across the table. "Abigail, I think we have the foundation for something extraordinary. Let's meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for the formal board presentation. If that goes as well as tonight, we'll be signing contracts by noon." We shook hands, and I returned to my suite feeling electric. Tomorrow everything would be finalized. But I couldn't sleep. Something felt unfinished. At midnight, I pulled out my laptop and composed an email to Victoria. Then I deleted it, composed another, deleted it. Finally, I wrote, "Victoria, thank you for tonight. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's presentation." I should mention something before then. Margaret Sullivan is my mother. The dinner party you attended was at my family's home. The absent daughter everyone was complaining about was me. I chose this meeting over cooking for them. I wanted you to know before we proceed. I stared at that email for 10 minutes. Then I hit send. At 12:15 a.m., my phone rang. Victoria. "Abigail, I just read your email. Are you telling me the woman who called you mentally unstable and unemployable is your mother?" "Yes." There was a long pause. "The daughter who supposedly can't hold down a job is you. The CEO of one of the most impressive catering companies I've ever seen." "Yes." Another pause. Then Victoria started laughing. Not polite corporate laughter. Real, genuine, almost disbelieving laughter. "Oh my God, Abigail, your mother spent 20 minutes telling everyone how disappointing you are. And that entire time you were on your way to meet with me?" "Yes." "Does your family know about North Star?" "No. They never asked what I do. They just assumed I'm unemployed." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Tomorrow's presentation. Your mother is going to find out." "Yes. Forbes is running a cover story on me. It goes live tomorrow at midnight." A cover story. About building a successful company without family money or support. Victoria laughed again. Abigail Morgan, you might be the most interesting entrepreneur I've ever met. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be quite a day. December 26th, 9 a.m. I walked into the Aurora Resort's boardroom wearing my best suit and my grandmother's lucky pen in my pocket. Victoria and her team were already there. The contract was on the table, 200 pages of partnership terms that would change my company's future. The presentation was flawless. Every slide, every answer, every projection backed by solid data. By 10:30 a.m., Victoria's CFO was nodding approvingly. By 11, the legal team had finished their questions. Victoria stood up. Abigail, I think we have everything we need. Let's sign this contract. Just as she said that, her assistant rushed in with a tablet. Ms. Diaz, I'm sorry to interrupt, but something is happening on social media that you need to see. Victoria took the tablet. Her face went from curious to confused to absolutely shocked. Abigail, she said slowly, turning the tablet toward me. Is this you? On the screen was a LinkedIn post that was going viral. Someone from my parents' party had posted a family photo from their wall, the one from last Thanksgiving, where I stood in the background, barely visible, while Natalie posed front and center with our parents. The caption read, "The Sullivan family of Greenwich. Christmas Eve pizza disaster explained. That's the unemployable daughter in the back." The comments were exploding, hundreds of them. People tagging my mother. People asking how a family could not know their own daughter was successful. That's me, I confirmed. Victoria scrolled through more posts. Someone had found North Star's website and linked it. Someone else had found the Forbes article announcement. Someone else had connected the dots completely. Your family still doesn't know, Victoria said. Not a question, but a statement. They will soon. Victoria's business partner, James, spoke up. I'm sorry, but I need clarification. Your mother served pizza to us last night while complaining about her failure of a daughter. And that daughter is you, the CEO we're about to partner with? Yes. James whistled low. That's the most poetic justice I've ever heard. Victoria stood up and walked to the window, then turned back to face me. Abigail, your family has no idea you run one of the most successful event planning companies on the East Coast? None. They don't know about your 50 employees, your 3 locations, this $2 million contract we're about to sign. They think I'm unemployed and living in a studio apartment. Victoria's CFO leaned forward. How is that even possible? They never asked. They decided who I was when I was 17, and nothing I did could change that narrative. So I stopped trying to change it. I just built my company in silence. Victoria pulled out her phone. I need to make a call. I'll be right back. She stepped out of the boardroom. Through the glass walls, we could see her talking animatedly on her phone. 5 minutes later, she returned with the strangest expression on her face. I just called your mother. My heart stopped. You what? I called Margaret Sullivan. I told her I was very disappointed in last night's event and would be taking my business elsewhere. Victoria! She begged me to reconsider, said it was all her older daughter's fault, that you'd sabotaged her on purpose. Victoria sat down. Then I told her I'd just signed a $2 million contract with the most talented entrepreneur I know. What did she say? She asked who. I said, your daughter, Abigail Morgan. CEO of North Star Experiences. The room was completely silent. The sound she made, Victoria continued, was like all the air had been sucked from her lungs. Then she hung up on me. My phone, which I'd kept on silent, showed 63 missed calls in the last 5 minutes, all from my mother. 3 from my father. 15 from Natalie. Victoria extended her hand across the table. Ms. Morgan, let's sign this contract. I believe we have a partnership to celebrate. As I signed my name, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. Your mother just fainted. What the hell is North Star Experiences? The contract was signed, champagne was poured, and my phone would not stop buzzing. Finally, I excused myself and checked the messages. Mom, answer your phone now. Natalie, is this some kind of sick joke? Dad, your mother is hysterical. Please call. Natalie, Victoria Diaz just told everyone you're a CEO. This isn't funny, Abby. Mom, this is cruel, pretending to be successful just to humiliate us. I walked back into the boardroom where Victoria and her team were still celebrating. My family thinks I'm lying about being a CEO. Victoria's eyes gleamed. Would you like me to send them something? Before I could respond, she was taking a photo. Me with the signed contract, the Aurora executive team, champagne glasses raised. She typed quickly and hit send. I just posted it on LinkedIn, she said, showing me her phone. Tagged North Star Experiences, Aurora Resorts, and Margaret Sullivan of Connecticut. The post read, Thrilled to announce our partnership with North Star Experiences and their brilliant CEO, Abigail Morgan. Her company's excellence will elevate our guest experience across all properties. Amazing to work with someone who built their empire from scratch. Within minutes, the post had hundreds of likes. Industry leaders I'd worked with for years chimed in with congratulations. Previous clients shared their experiences with North Star. My phone rang. Natalie. I answered on speaker with Victoria's permission. Hello, Natalie. This can't be real. Her voice was shaking. You've been a CEO this whole time? For 5 years. Why didn't you tell us? You never asked. You all assumed I was a failure and treated me accordingly. Mom's having a breakdown. She's calling everyone she knows, trying to explain. That's not my problem anymore. How can you be so cold? I looked at Victoria and her team, all successful professionals who'd never once questioned my worth. I'm not cold, Natalie. I'm done. I'm done being invisible until you need a cook. I'm done being the family disappointment. I'm done pretending to be less than I am to make you comfortable. But we're family. Family doesn't treat each other like servants. Call me when you're ready to meet Abigail Morgan, the CEO, not Abby, the cook. I hung up. Victoria raised her champagne glass. To boundaries. We all toasted, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly seen. That evening, my mother finally reached me. She was crying, actually crying. How could you do this to us? Do what exactly, Mom? Build a successful company? Humiliate us. Victoria Diaz told everyone at the country club. People are calling, asking why we didn't know our own daughter was successful. You never asked about my life, Mom. We asked. We knew you cooked sometimes. You assumed I was a failure. For 5 years you've introduced me as unemployed. You've never once asked about my work, my apartment, my life. You should have told us. I tried. Remember 3 years ago when I mentioned landing a big client? you immediately started talking about Natalie's energy drink campaign. You literally said, "That's nice, dear, but Natalie's work is really taking off." Silence. "I employ 50 people, Mom. I have 3 locations. I've been featured in multiple publications. I was nominated for a James Beard Award, and you thought I was unemployed because that was easier than actually seeing me. What do you want from us?" "Nothing anymore. That's the point. For the first time in my life, I need absolutely nothing from you." The Forbes article comes out tonight. You told them about us. I told them my truth. If that embarrasses you, maybe you should think about why. I heard my father's voice in the background. "Margaret, maybe we should listen." "I'm done listening," my mother snapped. Then to me, "You've destroyed this family." "No, Mom. I've finally built my own life. Call me when you're ready to be part of it, as equals, not as master and servant." I hung up gently, feeling lighter than I had in years. At midnight, the Forbes article went live. Within an hour, it was trending on social media. By morning, my face was on newsstands across the country. The headline? "From Invisible to Invaluable: How Abigail Morgan Built a Catering Empire Without a Dollar of Family Money." The most shared quote: "My family assumed I was unemployed. It was easier to build an empire in silence than to fight their assumptions." Within 48 hours, the consequences were complete. Natalie's PR firm lost the Aurora Resorts contract, a $500,000 annual account. Other clients left, too, asking how she could fail to recognize talent in her own sister. My mother was removed from 3 charity board positions. The official reason was strategic restructuring. Everyone knew the truth. My father's golf buddies wouldn't stop asking him how he didn't know his daughter was a millionaire. The pizza disaster became country club legend. Margaret Sullivan, who'd bragged about her entertaining skills for years, serving delivery pizza on Waterford Crystal while her CEO daughter signed million-dollar deals. But while their world crumbled, mine exploded with opportunity. North Star received over 200 inquiries. High-end clients who'd been on the fence suddenly wanted to work with a CEO who built an empire from scratch. Victoria became my biggest champion, introducing me to her network. "Imagine," she'd tell people, "having a golden goose in your house and treating it like a servant." 3 major contracts came from those introductions, worth a combined $10 million. I hired 20 new employees, promoted Maria to executive chef and Ryan to COO. During our expansion meeting, Maria said something that stuck with me. "You know what I love most about this company? You built it for people who were overlooked. Half of us were told we'd never amount to anything." She was right. I'd unconsciously hired people like me, talented individuals who'd been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. 3 months later, I agreed to meet my family at a neutral location. A quiet restaurant in Manhattan, my territory. They looked different, smaller somehow. My mother had lost her imperious edge. Natalie had cut her hair short and wore minimal makeup. My father looked the oldest, with new lines around his eyes. Before anyone spoke, I set down a single sheet of paper. These are my terms. 1. Equal respect or no contact. 2. No more servant treatment, ever. 3. Public acknowledgement of my success. 4. Genuine apology, not just words. 5. Therapy, family and individual. This is non-negotiable. I'll be your daughter, not your servant. Your sister, not your staff. I've built a life without you. I can continue without you. But if you want to be part of my future, these are the terms. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Abby, we've lost everything. My position on the boards, the respect of our social circle. That's not my responsibility, Mom. We know. My father interrupted. We're not here to blame you. We're here to ask for a second chance we probably don't deserve. Natalie spoke for the first time. I was jealous. You were always better at everything. But Mom made me feel special by making you feel small. And I let her because it felt good to be the favorite. She wiped her eyes. I'm in therapy now. The therapist says we created a family scapegoat system. You were assigned that role before you could fight it. My mother reached across the table but didn't touch me. I'm sorry. Not just for Christmas Eve, but for 15 years of blindness. The truth is, I was terrified you were better than me, than the life I'd built. So I kept you in the kitchen where you couldn't threaten my sense of self. I looked at each of them. Really looked. Saw the genuine remorse. I'll consider it, but I need you to understand. I'm not coming back to the same family. If we rebuild, it's as equals. They nodded. And Mom, if you ever want North Star to cater anything, you're paying full price. Industry rate. Because my work has value. My mother smiled. Small, sad, but genuine. Fair, more than fair. 6 months later, I hosted my first family dinner in my actual apartment. The 2-bedroom condo with a view of Central Park that they'd never known existed. My North Star team catered it. I no longer cooked for family gatherings. That boundary would never be crossed again. As my parents and Natalie sat at my dining table, being served by my employees who called me boss, the role reversal wasn't lost on anyone. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. I want to be clear about something, I said, raising my glass. Success doesn't need permission. Self-worth doesn't require validation. And respect is non-negotiable. My mother nodded. She'd been in therapy for 4 months and had publicly apologized at the country club. It didn't repair her reputation, but it began to repair our relationship. Natalie's PR firm had pivoted. She'd asked professionally if North Star might consider her for our PR needs. I'd told her to submit a proposal like everyone else. She did. It was good. We were considering it. My father had become my unexpected ally, finally finding his voice. He now introduced me as my daughter, the CEO, with genuine pride. But the biggest change was in me. I no longer hid my success or dimmed my light to make others comfortable. North Star had grown to 100 employees across 5 cities. The Food Network documentary had aired to critical acclaim, and every single morning I looked in the mirror and reminded myself, I'm Abigail Morgan, CEO of North Star Experiences, not the family servant. Never again. Thank you for joining me on this journey from invisible to invaluable. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about a time when you had to choose yourself over family expectations. Drop a comment below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you believe everyone deserves respect, regardless of their role, Please share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay small. Remember, you're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Until next time, this is Abby reminding you, know your worth, and then add tax.